Vort from the Rebbe on this week's Parshas Vayikra. In Parshas Vayikra, we learn about korbanos, the different sacrifices that the Yid could bring, that you bring in the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. Now, there are really two types of korbanos. There's korbanos chayva and korbanos nedova. Korbanos chayva means sacrifices that you must bring, whether it's a korban tzibur, korbanos that the community has to bring as a whole, and sometimes a private korban that the person has to bring if he did certain aveira, or all kinds of things at time when you have to bring. That's called korbanos chayva, obligatory korbanos. Then there are korbanos nedova. Korbanos nedova means korbanos that you donate because of the goodness of your heart. You want to donate a korban to the Eibishter. So you have these two types of korbanos. The first section talks about korbanos nedova, talks about korbanos that a Yid decides to bring on his own. And as Rashi says clearly, that the whole Inyan, the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, which is the beginning of Parshas Korbanos, talks about korbanos nedova, korbanos that the Yid decides to bring on his own. And the question that the Rebbe asks is, why would that be the first? Wouldn't korbanos chayva come first? First, you have to tell about the obligation. First, you have to tell the Yidden about the korbanos that they must bring. That's important. Then you could say, but besides that, there are also korbanos that you could bring if you want to bring. So the first should have been korbanos chayva, the obligation that you have before the korbanos nedova, the korbanos that come out of the goodness of the heart. So in simple pshat, the Rebbe answers the kasha that since this is said to Moshe Rabbeinu right after the putting up of the Mishkan, so the korbanos chayva that had to be brought, the korbanos tzibur, the korbanos that the community had to bring, was first brought by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. And B'meila didn't have to tell the Yidden about it. The korbanos chayva that the Yid has to bring because he didn't have aveira, things like that, also doesn't have to be said. Because we don't imagine that in that day or those few days in the beginning, after the Mishkan was put up, such holy times, a Yid would do an aveira. But it makes more sense that what would be the first thing people would want to do? The Mishkan is up, and you could bring korbanos. Probably every Yid was running to bring a korban nedova to Hashem. That's why he talks about korbanos nedova first. But deeper pshat, the Rebbe says, the reason why the Torah starts off with korbanos nedova that comes from the goodness of the heart, which means the kavana halev, the reason why he brought it, because he wants to bring it. Certain feeling you have is to teach us that that's the whole concept of all korbanos. Korbanos all are based on nedova. The Rabban says, how do korbanos forgive an aveira? We know korbanos forgive for aveiras. Why does a korban forgive an aveira? So the Ramban says that the person, b'shas he brings the korban, they shech the korban, they spritz the blood, and things like that. So you have to think in your mind, that's why the korban works. You have to think in your mind that this really should have been done to me. And Hashem was kind, and he said, do it to an animal, and that will forgive you for your aveira. So the whole purpose of a korban, even korbanos chayva, is the feeling of the heart that you have. To tell us that the ikar of a korban is the feeling of the heart, the Torah starts off the concept of korbanos with the feeling that you bring a korban because you feel that way. So that teaches you this is the whole union of korban. From that we'll understand that all korbanos, even if you're obligated to bring it, the kavanas halev, the feeling that you have, the emotions that you have that come along with it, that's a very important part in korbanos.